Hello. Welcome back to the Synchronicity podcast / YouTube channel. I'm Megan.
I'm Nicole.
And thank you for being here. We own a company called Synchronicity that changes your brain to change your life using microdosing and reprogramming the brain. We insert the upgrade so that you don't have to become your parents. Literally, because that's what we do. We just copy people until we have a mentor, somebody that steps in and teaches us different, because if you don't know different, you can't do different. And today we're talking about probably the biggest subject one ever really talks about, and that is love.
I just that song just starts playing in my head.
What song?
Do, baby, don't hurt me. I'm going to play it. I'm going to put it in this podcast. Just watch. It's going to happen.
Why?
The song?
Yeah, Don't Hurt Me.
Do you know what I'm talking about? What the song? Yeah, I just feel like, what is love?
Oh.
You know.
I got it.
And then I started thinking of The Night at the Roxbury's, because that's what is in there.
It's like they head bob.
Yeah.
My neck cracks when I do that. Anyway. So for us, I had never really thought about defining love. What is love? How do you know you love somebody? What is love? And it wasn't until we started working with our mentor that I ever really thought about it, and then was able to define it. And so we define love, and we've said this in other podcasts, but we're going to officially do this podcast on it, is love is the contracts you are willing to make and keep. And that's the only way that you know you love yourself or anyone else. And it's a thing. Because if you are not willing to make contracts, commitments, promises, whatever you want to call it, and keep them, then you don't love that person and you don't love yourself. And that was really enlightening, because I was one of those people that was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. And I wouldn't keep promises to myself, first of all, and then I wouldn't, keep them to anybody else, obviously, because if you don't keep commitments and contracts to yourself, you're not going to do it with anybody else. And I was just a hedonist, kind of running around, terrorizing everybody I met, including myself. I was a terrorist.
Megan was a terrorist.
I was a terrorist.
Especially when she was a child. She was hell on wheels.
Yeah, well, when you're
Tasmanian devil status.
When you're a double Aries Gemini, good luck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, our poor parents.
They're fine.
I don't know if they're fine, but they survived.
I mean, here we are. Undoing all of our parenting patterns. Love it. It's fun.
It's a party.
It is a party.
But anyway, love is such, it's why we're all here, right? And we just did the podcast on hedonism and stoicism, and Stoics love everybody, and they love everybody because they love themselves. So they allow for other people to have autonomy and have space and live their life the way that they see fit. And that is love. It's not about control or manipulation or winning or power or whatever that we were kind of taught love was. We were taught transactional love. I will love you if you act and do this a certain way. And then if you don't do it, I'm going to blame you for how I feel. And I'm going to not talk to you or punish you or whatever because you're responsible for how I'm acting. And that's a very dangerous type of love to program into a child. Because it creates a doormat or a bully, and I was a doormat, and I just thought that love was transactional, and that if I didn't please the other person, that I wasn't worthy of love. And coming out of that and realizing oh no, love is not transactional. If you love someone, you love them. Doesn't mean you have to like them, but you love is not conditional by nature. Because if you love yourself and you keep your contracts and you keep your contracts to other people, then you live a much more stable, satisfying life versus gratification. Because if you're in gratification energy or hedonist energy, you don't love anyone or anything, including yourself. And it's just kind of a complete dumpster fire.
Well, and the baseline of it is contracts and negotiations are key to continuing to keep the love. And we've even talked to like our next door neighbor. They're like in their 80s. They say they talk about everything. That's contracts, and that's, negotiation. And it's, I'm in love with you, not I love you. Because when you're in love, you're in the contracts, you're in the negotiation, you're in the relationship. When it's I love you, it's a friendship, right? I'm over here being an autonomous person. In friendship, you negotiate, but not as much as you do when you're in love or in a relationship.
Right, but you still have to keep contracts to friends, right? Like,
Absolutely.
if you kept telling your friends, like, oh, I'll go out with you and then don't show up. I'll go out with you or don't show up. They're going to eventually not be your friends anymore because you're not showing up. Well, if they're still your friend, we've got other issues, but going on there. But
they like to be abused.
Yeah, they're part of the 98% of the population. We're part of the 2% that's trying to like put things back in a stable pattern because it's a freaking wild. It's a wild world out there. I'm like,
wild, wild west. Man. Well, and a lot of people, they don't know this. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, we coach our clients. Like, so many women and men, we have it backwards. And, men's first sex organ, everyone first thing they say is, oh my God, it's his penis. No, it's not his penis. It's his eyes. Men fall in love with their eyes. And that's why it used to be such a thing. Like, yes, you're a pretty shiny object. You're pretty, like, dress feminine. He, like, is a visual. Men are so visual. Yes. And women, we fall in love with our ears. Our ears are our sex organ because you literally, like, what you say and what you do, if they add up, I'm going to fall in love with you because that is showing me you can provide, protect, and cherish me.
It's character.
Right. It's character. And men fall in love with their eyes. Men, so many women are like, oh my God, he like objectified me. He looked at me in my miniskirt. No, he's like, wow, that in his head, like, that's literally how it works. Like, he's attracted to you.
Yeah, I mean, guys fall in love in about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
If their eyes like you and their penis responds to the pheromones, game.
Bye. See you later, dude. Now you got to be virtuous.
Checkmate. Well, and there's the key, right? Men first fall in love with their eyes, second with their ears. Women first fall in love with their ears. Feminine first falls in love with their ears, second with their eyes. But we have a bunch of women running around choosing with their eyes, and
it's gnarly.
That's creating a huge issue psychologically. When we've got. If you watch The Science of Sex Appeal, it's a really good documentary on Prime. And it numbers people from like 10, which again, it's the golden ratio, so don't get mad at me. It's the more symmetrical you are, the more attractive you are. So the 10s are the most symmetrical, and it goes 10s all the way down.
Isn't it based on the Fibonacci sequence of symmetry?
Yeah. So the more symmetrical you are, the more beautiful you are.
So Amber Heard is a 10 because she is deemed the highest Fibonacci-based facial balance. Yeah. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why her proportions are literally like one of the closest to the Fibonacci sequence.
But now she's deemed crazy, so nobody cares how pretty she is.
But just like in the sense of like her face, though, like
she's
that's
beautiful.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
She's very beautiful.
I'm just telling you that because of the scale is not based on what we are. It's our scale. It's based on actual.
It's the Fibonacci sequence. Yeah. So what's happening in hookup culture today is like, and I've talked about this before, but I'm going to reiterate it because, repetition makes you remember. So, we have all of these women, right? And it is best when a woman falls in love with her ears first for character, because when a feminine core falls in love, she falls in love feeling safe. When a masculine core falls in love, he falls in love with his eyes, but he falls in love with a woman that respects his mind. So, but we have all these women that are choosing with their eyes, and they're like, oh, I'm going to fuck Brad Pitt, because I'm going to say that Brad Pitt is like a 10. I don't know if he actually is, but I would assume his symmetry. Hot. He's pretty much the most symmetrical human I have seen. Watch Troy. My gosh. Anyway, so these like 8s, 9s, and 10s are having sex with all of these women, and, a 10 dude is not going to marry a 3 or a 4. He might sleep with her because it's better than his hand, but he's not going to marry her. He's going to marry an 8, 9, or 10. Because you stay within and the Science of Sex Appeal talks about this, you stay within your range, well, it used to be. Now that these 3s and 4s are having sex with 8, 9s, and 10s, they have a disproportionate view of what they can get. So they think that they're going to marry 10, so they won't give the time of day to the 4s, 5s, and 6s that they could be with. And so you've got like 8s, 9s, and 10s having all the sex with all the women, even though they'll only marry in their category. And all of the men below that are not having sex. They don't have sexual partners. This is creating suicide. This goes back
more
to
predators.
Yeah.
Sexual-based predators. Rape has gone up.
Well, yeah, because
incest, abuse within the household.
Don't value themselves, and they create predatory men, because women that are having casual sex are men, and when men don't have feminine to fall in love with, they become creatures of the night and dark ego-dystonic alphas. Go back and listen to our ego-dystonic podcast or our podcast on situationships, and you're going to really start to see this pattern of like, people are driven by money, sex, and mind-altering chemicals. And sex is the strongest of all the mind-altering chemicals. The greatest drug to any human being is another human being. And we have forgotten this, and we have forgotten how powerful sex is. It literally drives... Men are driven by sex and money. Women rule sex. They are driven to... If they don't have something to have sex with, then we've got a big problem. And, you know, like Nicole said, we've got predatory instinct is through the roof. If they don't turn into predators, they pretty much commit suicide because...
Well, and we also have this insane incel movement happening, I believe, because it's the post-feminist, like, mothers have created these incels, right? So, like, these... I don't know, like 5s and below, because they're not getting sex. Right. They hate women, and they, you know, it's this whole thing. I remember, like, I had this whole conversation when I first learned this, like, a couple years ago about incels, and they literally they hate women. Like, they don't believe that women should be allowed to, like, wear yoga pants in public, because they think that is, like, taunting men. Like, oh, you're wearing those just so, but you're doing it to Tommy. And it's like this childish, like, mindset towards, like, this woman hate. But, like, we've also, as women, created this woman hate because of this, right? We're picking with our eyes. We're not picking with our ears. And we also, when a woman picks with her eyes, she's a man.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, he's a Peter Pan. And he's probably not going to be what your ears like.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of beautiful men have been cherished.
Yes.
You know, that's just, it's just the way it is. You know, we have the Per Turnus podcast. I mean, and I have dated a couple of men that are extraordinarily beautiful and also in their masculine, but their moms didn't cherish them. They cherished their mothers.
Yes.
You know,
and to this day still cherish their mothers.
Yes, you can find, and it's even with women, you know, a lot of beautiful women, and I was actually just having this conversation with a guy I'm seeing, it's like they're completely, like, just shallow monsters. Because they've only ever relied on their looks, and they devolve as they age because they really only care what they look like, and that's their only value. They never develop themselves spiritually or emotionally or anything. They're just these, like, vapid creatures. And, you know, you see that a lot on social media, like these women that are getting Botox every 5 seconds and, you know, working out twice a day and just, like, completely collapsed into vanity.
Rigid.
And
their face is stiff, their body's stiff, and they're just stiff.
And you wonder why kids are autistic, because, you know, when women have no facial emotions, the baby...
and all the dopamine from the iPads.
It's bad.
Here we are. That's a totally different topic.
You know, maybe we'll do a podcast on that. But if a woman doesn't, you know, love herself and isn't dating for character and isn't negotiating longevity, continuity, and exclusivity... before she has sex with a man, then she doesn't love herself, and she is not of virtue, and she is really then not of value to, and I know that sounds like, I struggle saying that, she's not of value, but she's really not, because she doesn't value herself. If you don't value yourself, you're not valuable to anybody else, because people value us by the value we put on ourselves. And, you know, that was a big thing for me to learn with, like, my self-worth and my self-confidence, because our parents were not doting or cherishing or very, like, loving human beings. They were very selfish human beings. And so, Nicole and I both learned to just like not take up any space, which is not feminine at all. I didn't know how to move through life in a very loving, very like light up a room energy, which is the feminine, which is what it makes the world a better place. We always talk about like women are walking orgasmatrons. Like we make everything beautiful. We are oxygen. We walk into a room, like even if like we're taken and we're married and we're happy, we still light up the room with this beautiful, just like orgasmic, happy essence. That's a great word. Because we are in our truest nature, love. We are the essence of love. If there wasn't women, like the world would be, I wouldn't want to live in that world.
They would just be
and
like,
I like men and I wouldn't live in that world.
Cars and beer and... Actually, I don't think there would be cars or beer because if there was no women, then men they
would be dead. There wouldn't be
anything because majority of what men do is for women.
Everything men do is for women.
Yeah,
that very little of what women do is for men.
Cut their hair, drink the beer, and buy the fancy car.
They make money to attract women because men their physical doesn't really even matter. That's why you've got like Jeff Bezos like dating hot women and stuff.
Dude, his new wife is so beautiful.
She has a ton of work done.
Yeah, but she
looks like a blow-up doll.
I mean, they all look like blow-up dolls.
I mean, her lips are like... It's a serious situation.
I haven't seen a recent picture.
Did you see her at the inauguration? Her tits were like... And she was like...
Oh, that's terrifying.
She's terrifying.
Oh, well.
She's terrifying. I mean, good for him, but it's kind of terrifying. But anyway.
Here we are. She probably fell in love with her eyes. No, he's not that cute. She definitely fell in love with his bank account.
Yeah, and just remember that women are the essence of love. And when we love ourselves, we teach men love. Men don't know love or understand it until it's taught to them by a woman. Hopefully their mother was the essence of love so that men know how to cherish a woman. But, in other podcasts we've talked about it. A woman becomes a man's heart. And so the masculine has to surrender first by giving her longevity, commitment, and exclusivity because men don't naturally want to do that. They want to spread their seed and go everywhere and not have a heart. But when we ground into our self-love and we want a man to give, protect, and cherish us, we then allow for more love in the world because we're valuing ourselves. And this is how important this really is. And we harp on this on almost every podcast, but
yeah. And like women, like don't be scared to negotiate. Like you can say no and you can negotiate. Like if something doesn't feel right or something doesn't feel good, like say something. This doesn't feel good. Are you willing to hear me out?
Yeah, and if a guy wants to have sex with you, it's a compliment. Don't shame him.
Yeah, no.
Say, thank you so much for finding me sexually attractive, but I don't feel comfortable having sex until we have talked about where you see this going, which is longevity, how often I'm going to see you, which is continuity, and also like how long this is going to go. And then exclusivity of monogamy, right? It's like that you're not having sex with any other and all the other girls in the world, that we are doing this and building something. So that makes you feel safe. That means you're respecting him. Like you're building something. You don't want to build a sandcastle. You want to build a skyscraper. That takes time.
Also, he's made out of bricks. So we build it from the bricks if he is a man of character.
Yeah.
So.
And they're good. They're worth the wait. I can vouch for that. So.
You can.
Yeah,
it's true. So if you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. It helps the show because we are just little YouTubers.
Help us.
Starting out. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, we always love a review of the show. It pushes us up to the top of the algorithm. Play the algorithm game with us. And then share with your friends. It's always just a little button down at the bottom. You can just send the link to them or share us on your social media. If you share us on your social media, we will 100% repost you. Comment, like, share, follow, and if you want to hear anything, you can always DM us at synchronicity_sisters or synchronicity_podcast. And until next time, bye.
Bye.